If you use Apple loops in your GarageBand projects, you may have asked yourself the question, what key are these loops actually in? Well, in this video, I'll be breaking down that question and helping you learn how to use your Apple loops together in GarageBand. Let's go. Hi, my name is Pete. Welcome to Studio Live today, where my goal is to help you create, record, and release your best music. And yes, we're talking about loops today, and we're also talking about key signatures. If you're brand new to GarageBand or you need a refresher, there's a couple of videos down below where you can learn all about how key signatures work, as well as how to use Apple loops here in GarageBand, because this is going to be a little bit more advanced. We're going to get into a little bit of music theory, and we're going to be talking about keys and key signatures and how we can make sure that our loops work well together with our other loops and our virtual instruments. So let's dive into that right now. Now, the simple answer to what key is my loop in is whatever key signature your track is. So if you've got a project here in GarageBand, it will default to C major. Now, why C major? Well, it's the most basic key signature that there is because it uses all the white notes on the keyboard, which I'll show you in just a moment. But whatever key signature you select here, that will actually be what you're using with your virtual instruments and also your loops. And if you have follow song key on, then they will actually follow the key as you change it. Again, we'll explain how all of this works as we continue on. But why don't we start off by throwing a loop here into this project to see how things work. So I'm a guitar guy, so the first thing I want to do is throw a guitar in here. Now, I happen to know that there's these very cool alt pop guitars. So we're going to search for alt and these alt pop acoustic guitars. If I tap on a loop, it'll demo it, and if I want to bring it in, I tap and drag and throw it here into my project. So we hit play on this one. And that's sounding okay, but look, if you're a guitar player like me, you're probably listening to that going, that's either a very out-of-tune guitar or it has been transposed to the wrong key. And the second one is right, because if we go here to our key, we are in C major here. But what I first want to work out is what notes are these actually playing? And the easiest way to do that I've found is to add in a piano and then actually play along with some of these chords. So we're going to tap here, we're going to go to our keyboard instrument, we're going to tap on that one, and now we have our piano. And I mentioned before that in C major, we're using all the white keys between C and C, and there's our C chord. So we need to now work out what chords this guitar is actually playing. So let's go back to our track view here and make sure that our guitar is playing there. It is. So we're going to hit play here. Let's play along and see if we can work out this. So we hit play. And we try some chords. All right, so it's not C, G, and F. It's probably C and then B flat. It is. So it's playing C chord, a B flat chord, and an F chord. Now, again, you don't need to know everything about theory to understand this. I'll show you an easier way in a moment. But this would seem to be in F major, because we've got an F chord, we've got a B flat chord, and we've got a C chord. However, the way that a lot of these loops work is that the root note will be the first chord. So the first note or the first chord played is whatever that is. So it's not necessarily saying that these loops are in C major, but they're starting with the root note of C, which is exactly what's happening with this particular loop. Now let's grab my guitar here and we'll compare what this sounds like, because you're probably already ahead of me if you are a guitar player, but this has actually been transposed down into a lower key. So what this loop actually sounds like to me is the classic E, D, and A. But it's just a lot lower. So if we play it back here, yeah, that's way low. And what I think I need to do is tap on here and let's bring this from a C major up to E, because I think if we bring the root note from C to E and hit play, that sounds a bit more like it. Let's play along with this with my guitar and take a listen. Yep, it is definitely an EDA arrangement. So what this is telling me is that we are here in C. It's not necessarily telling us it's in C major, but the first root note is going to be a C. If we move this to an E, this is what is the actual native key of this particular loop or sample. So keep that in mind, that the actual sample or the actual loop that we're using here is not necessarily going to be, if you're in a particular key signature, it's going to match to that key. So it's going to transpose it, it's going to shift the pitch up or down to actually match that. So that's what I wanted to show you here first, that it's often the root note that it starts with that could be the start of your loop, but it's not always the way, and it's not exactly how things work. So let's jump in and show you some other examples here to get you more up to speed with loops in GarageBand. Alright, so we're in another blank track here. This time I'm going to go to my loops and I'm going to throw in these summer heat sampled keys, because these are an example of a loop that is just at one particular pitch and it's just playing one bass note or chord. So let's hit play on this one. So it's sounding pretty cool, but it's just going to play that one all the way through. If we tap the spanner here, we're still in C major here, but I'm not convinced this is actually C major because it doesn't quite sound that way. So let's come up here, we'll go back into our piano, and let's see if we can work out. So our C major is that chord there, C, E, and G. That's the root chord of C major. Let's hit play. Definitely not that chord. Yeah, let's see if we can find the root note by just pecking around the piano here. So it's definitely based around a G. Is it a G major though? Does this sound like a major or more of a minor chord? I think it's going to be a minor. Let's play it. Yeah, it's definitely based around a G minor. So you might be thinking, isn't this a little bit weird that it's C major here, but this is G minor? Well, a lot of these loops are not really based around this. They're more designed to be ambient sounds used in electronic music and other things. So unlike our guitar example in the first one, this one's not going to match up. However, what if we wanted to put this down or up to a C? Well, what we can do is we can count how many semitones there are. So let's say we're going up. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 semitones up from the G to the C. So what we could do is, if we wanted to actually make sure this was in C instead of G, all we need to do is actually transpose this loop. So we can tap on it, we can hit settings, and then we can transpose it up that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 semitones. And now if we play, it's going to be up into C minor as opposed to G minor. Now here, we can test it out. There you go, it's aligned with our C minor. So if you are more into the musical theory side of things and you want to play around and get it to match up so you can play along with something like this, that's another way that you can do it there, by transposing that over from your, what was a G up to a C. Now the other thing you're probably thinking here is, Pete, why is there major and minor here? You're still in C major here. What happens if you go to C minor? Well, the answer for an Apple loop is nothing. Let's play again. It's the same loop, the same sound. The reason for that is that if you take a look here, this is a waveform. There's no actual note information in here to actually change. All it's doing is putting the pitch of the entire sample or the entire loop up or down, unlike MIDI, which we'll show you with a MIDI loop later in this video. So hang out for that if you do want to learn how we can actually adjust some of those sounds. But that just gives you an example and another idea of how Apple loops work related to keys and key signatures here. And remember, the minor and the major don't really matter there when it comes to loops. It's all about what the bass note is, and if it doesn't match what you want it to do, come in here to your settings, transpose it, and you'll be good to go. So let's talk about those MIDI loops that we have a bit more control over now while we're on the topic. So we'll tap on loops here now. One of the MIDI loops that I really like, and I know a lot of other folks like, are these 70s piano loops. So we'll type 70s here and we'll grab. You can see here these green loops are different to our blue loops because they contain MIDI note information instead of audio information. So you can see here, we'll just mute out this original synth. If we hit play on this one, So it's playing, it's definitely in a major key this time around. Let's grab our grand piano here, and this time let's flick it into chords mode, which might be a bit easier for those that don't know their way around the keyboard as well. So in the top right here, we tap on the chord strip view, and now we can just tap any of these and we can work out what chords we're actually playing along with. So let's hit play here. Right, so I've hit the C chord. The first one's definitely a C as we play. And then what's the next chord? Well, it goes down there, so I'm thinking it's probably going down to a B flat. And then where's it going? Well, it's probably going up to an F. So it's probably using this chord progression. C, D, D, B flat, D, 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 F. So this is an example of a pretty simple sort of 1-4-5 style chord progression, although this one, if it was in C, what it would actually be doing is it would be going to 1, then down to its 7, then to its 4. So you might be thinking, well, it's not C major if it's got F, B flat, and C. It's probably F major, or it could be a variation on C major. But again, just keep in mind, it's all about that root note. Just like our guitar was, it starts on the C chord, like that. So it's not necessarily going to be in the key of C, but it's going to start with a C. Hopefully that's making some sense. If it doesn't, that's all good. You'll get there. Maybe watch this again and go back and check out those other videos about keys and the other things about Apple loops just to learn a bit more. But anyway, let's continue on with this one. Once again, we can change the key signature over here. So if we wanted this to in fact be up in E, let's tap on the E there and now hit play. So it's now E, D, and A. So, you know, we could actually use this with that guitar loop that we had before, because now we've moved it into E, D, and A. Problem is that the chord progression may not be exactly matching and exactly the same, but we can manipulate this around and it's going to actually move these notes. Now, I did mention before that the difference is that we could change these to a minor, and sort of, because if we change the major to a minor here, it's still not going to actually change these chords. They're still going to be major chords, but what we can do is, of course, we can edit these. If we tap again, go edit, we can jump into this, and instead of it being a, we could actually move this down to, we could actually make it a minor start. And then, of course, we'd have to change all of these. So it would be a little bit of a fiddly opportunity. So yeah, you can change them up by just changing the notes there and give the major chord back to a minor feel. So that is another example here. So we've been through 3 different loop types. We had our guitar, we had this one here, which was more of our ambient sound just sitting on one note, and then another one here starting on one note. So you can see why, despite the fact that the simple answer is the key is whatever key you put it in, it's kind of not, and you do need to dive in. Once you get more advanced, you need to dive in and learn a bit more about this, because if we wanted to play along with another instrument, then we need to know what they're actually playing. Let's finish off with one final example for a little bit of fun. Back into our loops here, and this time I've searched for Cosmic Cruise because I want to throw in some samples and loops from this cool Prismatica pack, the latest sound pack here in GarageBand. So let's throw the slap bass in here, because who doesn't like to slap at a bass? And we'll also throw in the electric piano, because what's going to happen when you put 2 loops in here from the same pack, they're going to match up not only because of the key, but usually because of the rhythm as well. Let's hit play on these. So you can hear there that they're matching up there, they're beat matched and they're sounding good in terms of the rhythm, but they're also in the same key. Now we have to work out again what that key is. So once again, in our spanner here, we're in C major. Doesn't really sound like a major kind of sound to me. I wouldn't be surprised if this is minor, but let's go into our piano here. We'll go to our piano view like so. We'll go over to chords mode in the top right corner. Let's see if this is actually going to be a C chord here at the start. It's definitely not, so I'm almost positive we're in C minor. Now what we can do here, this makes life easy for us. If we tap the wrench there, we tap on key signature, if we drop this to C minor, it won't change the sounds, but it will change the chords we have available here. And because I think we are in C minor, then we're going to be able to work out what the other chords here are. So we'll play and we'll play along and let's discover these chords together. Okay, what I actually think this is, I think this is a progression, a very nice funky progression, which is a C minor, and then a B flat, and then maybe even an E flat, so it's like and the C minor could even be an A flat. You could A flat major at the start there. So if we play it again, the reason for that is your C minor shares almost exactly the same notes as your A major. We won't A flat major. We won't go into a heap of detail more than that about theory, except to now know that we now know that this one is in C minor. So if we wanted to play along with this, we know that we can sort of riff and play along in a C minor kind of scale. So let's hit record and just record a little part to go along with this. Cool. So yeah, you can see there that by knowing a little bit about it, if you wanted to bring together some of your loops with an actual virtual instrument, understanding what key it's in and what those chords are is really going to help you out. If you're going to play along, you'll know what notes you can use and what notes you can't use in that particular scale. So we just play a little piece of this that I played along. And the cool thing here is that now that we've got that in there, we can use some of our cool changes here. So let's just say we wanted to bring this up a little bit. Let's bring it up to maybe F, and we come back here. Now we play. And that hasn't really worked because it sent it down. That is one of the limitations here of GarageBand. You never quite know if it's going to change your key up or down when you change it. The way we can control that is once again using our settings and actually transposing it manually up or down using that. But back in our original key, I think sounds pretty cool. So there you go. That is everything that you wanted to know about loops and key signatures, how they work together, the difference between majors and minors, the different types of loops, which ones will have chord progressions, which ones will just sit on one. And the key thing to take away here is that root note of C is what was the universal thing across all of these, generally speaking. That other single loop, not so much, but that's okay. That's the exception that proves the rule. But hopefully this gave you some ideas about how to identify your different types of loops, your different key signatures here. And if you want to learn more, there are 2 videos linked right down below right now that you can check out. You can also subscribe for even more videos like this by clicking or tapping on the Studio Live Today icon. And I'm going to see you on the next video.